Hey everyone, so today, October 19th, the crypto market is sitting on a real knife's edge after a pretty major correction, but there might be a little bit of good news on the horizon. Market sentiment is starting to shift. Okay, let's dive in and figure out what's really going on here. First things first, let's look at the emotional state of the market, the fear and greed index. Right now, it's sitting at a 29. Now, just last week, we were deep in extreme fear. Today, we've kind of crawled our way up to just plain old fear. It might not sound like a huge party, but believe me, that shift in psychology is a really crucial first step. And that leads us to the million-dollar question, right? Is this tiny little bit of relief a sign that we've finally hit the bottom? Is this a massive buying opportunity? Or is this just a little pause before we take another nosedive? Let's take a look at the evidence. We have to start with the king, Bitcoin, because right now it is completely trapped in this tense tug of war. You've got these massive forces just pulling it in opposite directions, keeping it stuck in the mud. And this slide really lays out that conflict perfectly. On one side, you've got these big negative forces, like the US-China tariff tensions spooking everyone and huge amounts of money flowing out of the ETFs. But on the other side, the long-term bull market case is still very much alive. In fact, a new Fidelity report says we're in the acceleration phase of the cycle. Now, that phase is known for being super volatile, but it's also the one that often leads to that final explosive push upwards. And here's the big, scary number on the negative side. Almost $600 million has flowed out of Bitcoin spot ETFs in just the last 24 hours. That's a huge signal that for right now, the big institutional players are hitting the brakes and de-risking, which is putting a ton of selling pressure on the price. So, what does this all mean for Bitcoin? Well, in the short term, the most likely path is just more sideways chop, what we call consolidation. The market is basically just holding its breath, waiting for a clearer signal from those big economic stories, especially whatever happens with those trade talks. But here's where it gets interesting. While Bitcoin is stuck, the story is far from over. Smart money doesn't just sit around. And that's leading to a big capital rotation. Money is flowing toward Ethereum and this new wave of altcoins. This quote from a market analysis report just nails it. As Bitcoin goes sideways, that money has to go somewhere. And we're seeing it rotate into other ecosystems, specifically into Ethereum's Layer 2 solutions, the platforms that help it scale, and into powerful competitors like Solana. And if you're a fan of looking at the charts, things are starting to look pretty constructive. Both Ethereum and Solana are showing signs of a potential W bottom. Now, for those who don't know, that's a classic technical pattern that often signals a price reversal. It suggests a floor might have finally been set. So who's really set to win from this big shift? Well, Ethereum is the clear center of attention. I mean, you have major players like BitMine coming out and publicly saying they've scooped up a whopping 2.5% of the entire ETH supply. That's huge. And that confidence trickles down to the Layer 2s built on it, to competitors like Solana, and of course to the entire DeFi and Web3 gaming world. All right, now let's zoom out from the day-to-day price swings for a second, because behind the scenes there are some incredibly positive long-term things taking shape, especially on the regulatory front. First up, there's the proposed Genius Act, and this is a huge deal. It's a law designed to finally bring some clear rules to stablecoins, which, let's be honest, are becoming the backbone of global payments and DeFi. Getting clarity here would be a massive step toward mainstream legitimacy. And just to add some fuel to that fire, check out this quote from the new SEC chairman, Paul Atkins. His focus is on creating a clear framework, not just ruling by slapping people with lawsuits. That is a major shift in tone from Washington, and it's the kind of change that opens the door for more complex products like staked ETH ETFs and gets even more big money institutions involved. And finally, you have the RWA trend, real-world assets absolutely exploding. When a mainstream company like Robinhood starts putting tokenized stocks on a blockchain like Arbitrum, that's a massive sign. It confirms that the future of finance is putting traditional assets on-chain. We're talking about a multi-trillion-dollar narrative in the long run. Okay, so with that big picture in mind, let's pull it back to the here and now. I'm going to give you a quick dashboard of the essential metrics you absolutely need to be tracking right now. First, we're back to the fear and greed index. Keep a close eye on this number. If we see it start to climb up towards 50 into that neutral zone, that would be a great sign to help confirm that a local bottom is really in. Next up, Bitcoin dominance, sitting at 59%. This basically shows how much of the total crypto market cap belongs to Bitcoin. If you're hoping for a real alt season, that time when smaller coins just go crazy, we need to see this number start to fall. That's the signal that capital is really flowing into things like ETH and SOL. And last but not least, those ETF flows. The key here is simple. We need to see this number flip from negative to positive. A sustained period of money flowing in is the clearest signal you can get that the big institutions are feeling confident again. And hey, keep your eyes peeled for tomorrow, October 20th. We could get news from the US-China tariff talks at any moment, which could cause some wild price swings for Bitcoin. Plus, we'll get a fresh update on those all-important ETF flows. These two things could easily set the tone for the entire next week. So, with all this uncertainty, managing your risk is everything. Seriously, this is not the time to be going crazy with leverage. That's what fueled the last crash. Make sure you have clear stop-loss orders on your positions and really focus your capital on projects that have strong, proven fundamentals. So, it looks like we're in for some consolidation for now, but the evidence is pointing towards a recovery, probably led by Ethereum and other blue-chip altcoins. But I really want to know what you think. Do you agree with BitMine making that massive bet on ETH? Which altcoin do you believe is going to lead the charge out of this mess? Let me know down in the comments. Thanks for tuning in.